I'm Tim Leavitt. I'm the Development Manager in Application Services at InterSystems, and I'm joined by Bob Kuszewski, who will be, he's a product manager over InterSystems Package Manager, and we will be talking about InterSystems Package Manager. We'll start out just explaining what InterSystems Package Manager is with a brief demo of some of the different basic things that it can do. It can also do a whole lot of really complicated things that we're not going to demo. We'll talk a little bit about the history of how we got to where we are now, then where we actually are now, where we're going, where Bob will chime in with the roadmap, and some next steps that you can take to get involved and try things out and consider adopting IPM for your own use. So what is InterSystems Package Manager? Just out of curiosity, who here has worked with InterSystems Package Manager before on some level? Great, just installing stuff from the Open Exchange. Who is hosting their own registry? Just curious. Dimitri, you kind of don't count since you built it. Great. So InterSystems Package Manager is a combination package manager and build tool. Think like Maven for Java or NPM for JavaScript projects. So you can install software and libraries inside InterSystems IRIS. You can declare your project's dependencies on other ObjectScript projects. You can use it, and we've used it this way in InterSystems, to break down monolithic code bases into smaller units of code that can be considered and tested and developed as an independent unit. You can publish artifacts, and even artifacts containing deployed code if you don't want to send your source code all over the world. You can run unit and integration tests more easily and straightforwardly than just using %unittest.manager out of the box. And you can actually automate all sorts of other tasks through a common command line interface. I used the example in another meeting earlier. %installer is like Steve Rogers, IPM is Captain America. So just a little bit of a demo in terms of some of the basic things that IPM can do. First thing you want to do, of course, is install IPM. At our GitHub repo, github.com/intersystems/IPM, there is a convenient one-liner that you can copy if you think that copying code off the internet and running it in your IRIS environment is a good idea. It's just right here as a basic installation step. So in an environment, once you've done that, you'll have access to our community package registry at pm.community.intersystems.com. Got a little bit of an echo here. So if I list my configured repositories, I can see in this amazing new IRIS terminal built into VS Code, I can see that I'm connected to pm.community.intersystems.com. I can search. ZPM is the command to get into the package manager shell. I can search and see that there are a ton of packages out there. And if I want more information on these, I can go back to the Open Exchange at openexchange.intersystems.com and look them up there. Some of these are authored by InterSystems. Some of these are authored by me. Some of them are authored by the community. And they range from templates to examples to libraries and development tools. There are a whole lot of useful things out there. And the Open Exchange is the best way to discover them. So say I want to install one of my packages, the test coverage package. It's just ZPM install test coverage. And that'll go out to pm.community.intersystems.com. It pulled in some ObjectScript code. It loaded and compiled it. And now I have a new development tool available within this instance. Another thing that you might want to do is define a package around existing code. So I found this one. I went onto the Open Exchange, and I looked back as far as I could until I found something that didn't already have IPM set up. And this is actually a great simple example. So I can see that in this folder, there's some ObjectScript code, and it's kind of standard. There's /src, and then corresponding to your IRIS ObjectScript package name, a bunch of folders, and then there's a production there. So if I wanted to turn this into an IPM package, it's not right now. You can tell if something is very easily because there will be a file named module.xml at the top level that describes the layout, provides a name for the package, might have additional setup automation in there. If I want to create a new one, I'll go back into my package manager shell. And so I don't have to keep typing ZPM. I can just type it once, and then I'm in the package manager shell itself and say generate. So in my Docker container I'm running here, I have that GitHub repo cloned, and it's mounted as /firepro. I think it stands for Fire Profiler. So we'll just call it, this is an area where I think we need some room for improvement, or we have some room for improvement in terms of our naming conventions. I'm going to call it isc.zimpl because that's something like the username of the GitHub user that created this .firepro. We'll give it a semantic version. This isn't actually really released 1.0. We have a defined API against which we can track compatibility of future changes. We'll call it 0.1.0 instead. We'll say it's a Fire profiler, whatever that means. I don't really know much about Fire. Our sources are in SRC. I don't want any web applications. I don't have any dependencies in there. So I can see I now have this file module.xml. Want to tweak that a little bit because I can see here it's not all of HS, but just hs.local.zimpl.firepro. There's a GitHub issue to make that a little smarter. And now I can load /firepro, and it just works. And that's an alternative to some complicated set of installation scripts, do $system.obj.load this thing and some other thing. All of it can be wrapped into module.xml to say, how do I install this object script package? It's easy. You just load or install the directory or the package. Another thing that IPM makes really easy is running unit tests. So in addition to loading from the file system, I can also load from GitHub. So we'll just say load this GitHub repo, does a git clone, pulls down all the source, and loads it into IRIS. So now if I want to run my unit tests for this package, I can say test pkg.yourcompany.math, and it did something interesting, but I can see that my unit tests passed. And that's a whole lot easier than setting unit test root and then calling some class method, and it's consistent. Any package that has unit tests defined, it's super easy to run them through the package manager shell. There are a whole lot of other things it can do as well. Packaging, actually producing some artifact for your package, publishing it to a registry, maybe one under your own control. And you can really hook any automation you want into module.xml through a variety of different mechanisms, either as a one-off, call some class method, or in a reusable way. And if you want to see some cool examples of that, stick around for the next session in this room. All right, so how did we get here? You might have seen ZPM, the Object Script Package Manager. Now it's IPM. Maybe you heard something about this Health Share Package Manager. What's even going on here? So a little bit of history. Back in 2016, we started work on the Health Share Package Manager, and that was my baby back in the day. And we used it internally. Initially, there was this grand vision around completely revolutionizing how we install and upgrade Health Share, which I think a lot of that's really realized through containers now, although there is also an aspect of that the package manager can handle. Quickly pivoted to saying, all right, we've got this monolithic code base that we're calling Health Share. Some of it is really generic healthcare interoperability stuff, though, that we want to include in IRIS for Health. How do we take this huge code base and split it out into a bunch of separate independent components? And the Health Share Package Manager was the answer, because that's something that a package manager is really good at, defining independent units of code. So it was under very active development. I was doing a ton of work on it from 2016 to 2018. In 2019, Evgeny and the community team released the Object Script Package Manager that was based on the Health Share Package Manager from about mid-2017. And that helped solve a problem that the development community had, where We have ObjectScript projects on GitHub. We want to be able to easily install them somewhere. We want to be able to distribute them. A package manager is really good at that too. And there have been so many amazing contributions and advancements from the open source community. Dimitri's in the front row of those as well. And we are so thankful from the innovation that that team has driven. But we've had two divergent and separate code streams. You may have seen the ZPM terminology. Of course, as you saw, that's the command for getting into the package manager shell. And ObjectScript language extensions start with Z. That's where that comes from. So that also, people will colloquially refer to the InterSystems Package Manager as ZPM as well. So here's how things kind of diverged. Within InterSystems, within health share development, there's really been a focus on embedded and server-side source control workflows, which are what we predominantly use within InterSystems. Focus on our build processes, focus on inclusion of various sorts of non-ObjectScript artifacts like jars and Angular user interfaces, and really prescriptive processes for the way that we do things specifically. Within the community, there has been broader use of more client-centric development workflows where you're running against an IRIS instance, or better yet, a container on your own machine, and that's where your development happens rather than on either a shared environment somewhere else or at least allowing that. Really a focus on usability and flexibility, and a lot of improvements there in terms of even how module.xml is structured. There have been advancements in including Python in these projects and working with artifacts, including deployed code. And really, I just want to have all of these things. So that brings us to where we almost are now. About a year ago, InterSystems kind of took the reins and honestly took things slower than would have been ideal, trying to get to a single package manager with the best of both worlds that's compatible with everything internally within the community and has all of the features developed internally and within the community from several years of divergence and reconvergence. And that's been a major task. So early to mid last year, health share development led by Bei Ming in the back did a whole lot of work to consolidate and adopt what we're calling IPM, InterSystems Package Manager. We had a little bit of time with unclear ownership, and as of the start of this year, I'm the architect for it, and we have a clearer path forward with Bob providing product management, and we're gonna really make this happen. So where are we now? We're at the beta for what we're calling IPM 0.9.0. I think there was a 0.8.0 in there somewhere. I'm not really sure what the story is. So version 0.7.1 of IPM is the latest, maybe final version before we call it really IPM. And what that means, I'll explain. That was released last month. And you'll need to upgrade to that before, or run the one-liner installer before updating to version 0.9.0, which is in beta now. So this has the best of both the community added features and what we've developed internally for use within health share development. The code has been restructured because, honestly, I made some foolish decisions 8 years ago, and the class names make more sense now. And they're also in the %IPM package now, rather than the %CPM package for the small subset, the room that cares about that. This has some security implications. It has some, it's a little annoying if you have a package that extended the old class name. But we're working with the owners of community repositories that have the relatively small number that have done that. It's optionally namespace specific, which is helpful for use cases like on my team, where we have applications, there's something of a multi-tenant with each namespace having a separate thing. They don't all need to be running the same version of IPM. And we're planning to release this later this month. If you want to get a preview, our releases section in GitHub has beta artifacts that are published as pull requests are merged, and we're getting pretty close, I think. Part of our testing process here has also included attempting to, and setting up the testing infrastructure to install all of the community packages that are out there and make sure that they still work on the new version. And I'd like to see us continue to do more with this down the road to help improve the quality and help developers contribute well in the open source community. Now I'll hand it over to Bob to talk about where we're going next.
So thanks, Tim. That was awesome. So Tim brought you up to how we got to where we are, and what all the IPM Package Manager can do, and how it got us to version 0.9. So he wanted me to talk about, well, what's next? So obviously what's next is version 1.0. That's what we're striving for. That's our big focus. And the main thing that we're looking at is software supply chain improvements, so that we can really say, hey, this is really ready for prime time. So as has already been mentioned, IPM knows how to talk to several different types of registries today. And we're adding another one. We're adding the Docker container registry as another one. So if you are running a container registry, that is a great place for you to be able to put your packages as well. This is beginning to become a pretty standard practice, that there are a fair number of other things that are not containers that are being distributed on container registries. Talking to customers, we heard about this is, hey, they want something that is already approved by their security groups and their network groups, and they already know how to run it, and they already know how to secure it and to manage it. And we want that as well. Container registries, there's commercial versions, there's open source versions, there's all kinds of versions, managed versions that you can get to meet your needs. So we thought that was a good choice. If you think otherwise, now would be a really good time to tell me. The other thing that we really want to bring in here is code signing. So take the package and digitally sign it, so that when then you publish it up to the registry, and then when someone downloads it and goes to install it, they can check that signature and say, oh yeah, this code is really the same code that was published by, or at least signed by, the person that I think it was signed by. We think that that's a really strong improvement in the software supply chain security, so that we're feeling better. Customers are feeling better about, okay, I'm installing something that's as legit as I can make it. We're contemplating a few other features for 1.0, and I'm looking for feedback on these from you. There's a couple of what we think of as missing core package features, like lock files that you see in NPM. Updates, we've got some update workflows that are not as complete as we would like them to be. So if any of those are of great value to you, let me know. Another thing that we're considering is creating a command line interface that's not at the IRIS prompt, but at the OS prompt, so that in your package you can just, sorry, spam risk is calling me right now. Tell them to go away. Sorry about that. Where was it? Oh, command line interface, right? So at the OS level or in your Docker file, you can just say, IPM install foobar, and it'll do the right thing for you. Another piece of that is, IPM create new package for me, and it'll create the directory structure for you. All those kinds of things that you see with other package managers from other systems. And one other thing that's maybe, but I'm thinking pretty likely for 1.0 is that we add this as an install time option to IRIS. So when you're installing IRIS, it'll say, do you want to install IPM or not? Yes or no. Simple as that. So I'm looking for feedback on all of those. So when we get to the question and answer time, or after, please let me know. All right, call to action. So what are your next steps? So you can learn a lot more about IPM from Tim. He's on YouTube. He is a YouTube star. He's an IPM influencer. I don't know why everyone's laughing. Do you know why, Tim?
No, no clue.
All right. As he mentioned before, he's got another session right here, I believe, right after this, that has a little bit more advanced use case to it. There's also, he's going to be at the Tech Exchange at 11 tomorrow. So if you have questions, you want to chit chat, Tim's your man.
And I'll just add, if there are demos that you would like to see or things that you have questions about, I'm taking requests now. I've got a demo I can do if nobody wants anything specific, but if there are things you'd like to see in action in IPM, let me know, and I'm happy to focus on that in the time that I have tomorrow.
Yeah. Obviously, the best way to start with any package manager is to create a package and start working with it, and install IPM on your dev box and download and patch some packages and run them and create your own package and really get to understand and use it. The basic format of the packages is where it's going to be when it hits 1.0. So now that we're at 0.9, it's really the time that you can start to look at things, because the only thing that's really changing, at least that we're planning to change, is the software supply chain piece of the puzzle. The developer community, I know some of you have used it. How many of you kind of looked at the developer community, downloaded packages from them? A whole bunch. Okay, good. So there's the GitHub URL. It's not hard to find. You just type InterSystems developer community and you're good to go. They have lots of templates that'll get you started with IPM packages. So that's why I'm calling them out. Also, IPM is open source. It's on GitHub. You can contribute to it if there's something that is missing in the functionality and you know exactly what to do. By all means, send us a PR. If there's something missing in the functionality and you're not sure what to do, open a ticket. Sorry, GitHub issue. That's the word I'm looking for. GitHub issue, and we'll be happy to kind of help you out and review that. With that brings us to the end of our session. By now, you've seen this slide 112 times. You know what to do there. Tim deserves 5 stars all the way around the board. I feel like a Uber driver or something, but I was trying to get 5-star reviews. Mm. But since you're a YouTube star, maybe you should like and subscribe to Tim. We have early access programs. None of them are IPM, but again, you've seen this slide a million times by now, but please do sign up for them. And that brings us to questions and answers. Yeah.
So, a couple quick easy ones. With the CLI, can that be plugged into your guys' Ansible module?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I know you guys are working on the Ansible module. Yeah. If you're going to go CLI, I can CLI it from Ansible, but I would sooner just have it as part of your guys' module.
Yes, I had considered that, but you're 1,000% right. I would look for it.
Okay. And then how far back can we go with this? As far as when you release, would we all put in 2022?
Yeah.
2017?
No. IRIS. IRIS is a requirement.
Okay, and that's fine.
Yep.
We're actively moving to there. So.
Yep. 22.1. There's a decent chance that we'll end up for v1.0, or if not, then a little bit later, looking into some embedded Python use cases. So 22.1 is definitely safe, right?
Yeah.
That's embedded Python.
That's what we need.
Okay.
Other questions? I don't know if it's working.
Hello? Okay, so I guess yes, but can data objects be part of the whatever upgrade you're doing? And if yes, is there any sort of control that can be implemented on GUID or something like that?
The question was, can data objects be included? The answer is anything can be included, and if you just have a global that you want to import, that's super easy. You can just do the standard global export. For use cases I've had load this data from a CSV file. You can do more intelligent things around building your own custom import logic that hooks in with IPM. There's really easy automation to just call any class method basically on installation. Or you can come up with a reusable thing that points to this file, this file, this file, handle it with this class. And if you have the same logic that you want to reuse targeting multiple files. So there's extensibility there for that. I'd be very curious to have a follow-up conversation as to what you're doing, because it sounds really interesting. All right, and feel free to